Hello, lovely human listeners. My name is Caleb Tilton, and I am a senior at the University of Utah studying gender studies. This podcast is meant for Robin Kimmerer. We read her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, this fall semester, and it has truly changed my life and others around me. I also want to say thanks to our professor, Kilo Zamora, for opening the door and truly opening the space for us to talk about these conversations in order for the students that are involved in this podcast and me to be able to articulate our ideas in such a specific way to make this podcast possible. And for introducing the book, of course. This podcast is composed of different student interviews that I had pre-recorded during one of our class sessions. They're about different topics expressed in the book and how we are actively applying these topics to our everyday life. Before reading this book, how did you refer to the natural world?
I definitely think the way that I referred to it, and the way I referred to it definitely impacted the way I thought about it, but it's a lot more sterile, I think, because, like, I study ENVST, and I feel like even though we kind of do learn about, like, these, like, system ways of thinking, these systems almost become, like, detached from us just because, like, they're so big, they're so complex, they're so grand, that, like, yeah, I guess almost like some sort of like solar system, and it's like it's hard to remember that we are part of these systems and we are living with these systems.
Yeah, I like that you use the word sterile because I'm a STEM major too, so I understand that, you know, most of the time they want us to just kind of objectify things and just define what it is instead of, you know, focusing on this relationship and how we can change that. So I really like that. Do you notice a difference in how you like speak of living beings now? Like, do you refer to things as kin or ki?
Yeah, I think I really have honestly adopted. I think it's taken a little bit, like over the course of this class.
Yeah.
But I really love the use of ki and kin as like a way to think about just everything, thinking about life. I think it makes it so much more personal and makes it feel so much more connected, because I think even before reading this book, when I refer to like a tree, it's like, oh, it, or whatever. I feel like even if I didn't really think about it that much, it definitely, looking back, it definitely did feel a lot like kind of weird almost. So yeah, I really think this like sort of change, and I think experimenting with like other ways of just like phrasing things when talking about non-human, more than human kind of things, is kind of a fun exercise, since I'm not still fully used to it. It's like fun exercise to kind of begin changing the way that I think about it. Yeah.
I mean, even myself, I still catch myself like calling things it and being like, you know, that instead of,
for
you
sure,
know, embracing what more they have to offer than just being an object. So I really like that. Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add, or?
I guess something to go along with like language is that I've felt has kind of helped me start speaking in a language of animacy is trying to get to intimately know like specific beings, I guess, kind of with our what was it, like our self-documentary assignment. Something that I did was the nectarine tree in my front yard. I offered Key a nickname, Aria, I think for me that was a way to kind of be able to share name with um, this nectarine tree in a way that didn't feel too overwhelming, because I think getting to know the flora and fauna is like there's just so much of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was kind of an important first step for me, kind of in this process of like learning and understanding these relationships and connections that we have.
Nice. Thank you. Thanks. Kimmerer talks about the Earth operating as a gift economy, not a market one. What does this distinction mean to you personally, and what does it demand from us in return?
I think a gift economy is something where it doesn't take from the environment as much as a market economy. So, for example, Kimmerer references the strawberries, how they're not the same when they're bought from the store, how they don't even feel like a strawberry at that point, and they taste so much better when they're grown and they're wild, because they're not something that can just be bought or something that could just be taken for somebody else's property. They're nobody's property. They belong to the earth. And so I think a gift economy is working with the environment, eating with the seasons, and rather than just taking, you give something. And when you give something, you almost build a relationship with that object. Giving it to someone, it feels so much more special. Like when somebody gives me a handmade gift, or grows me something beautiful, or brings me flowers, I love it so much more, and I appreciate it so much more than just a store-bought gift. And don't get me wrong, store-bought gifts in some way can be good, but I cherish them more, to the point where I would rather keep it more safe, keep it with my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a gift economy would also help with sustainability in the way that people wouldn't be taking advantage of the environment, because they would build more of a relationship with it rather than seeing it as property. And once you see something as an equal to you, it's harder to exploit it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah. You mentioned eating with the seasons, and I have kind of had this idea in my head too lately. When you say that, do you mean sort of adapting the diet to sort of things that are in season, so that way we're not focusing on, growing things out of season and sort of benefiting the whole ecosystem at one specific period of time? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing about eating with seasons is like, yeah, I want to eat when things are growing, and I think it plays into a lot of industrial agriculture and monocropping, because people will grow things out of season and then they'll transport it to different countries, or they'll bring it somewhere else, which is technically not a bad thing. It's trade.
And they charge more for it too.
Charge more.
Yes.
But it belongs to the earth, not to humanity. Yeah. And yes, it's not like the earth wants to keep it all to itself. It wants to share, but at some point you have to give back. You have to give some leeway, and you have to let the soil recover. You can't just take it as an object type thing. So eating with seasons is, yes, eating when things come into season. For example, right now it's apples, and rather than just like going and buying something that's like, oh, I'm gonna go buy oranges. Oranges aren't in season. Where do you think it's coming from? Where do you think that labor is coming from?
Yeah.
It's just like kind of finding that more sustainable method. It's like sourcing it back to where it originates. And at that point, it's like the labor of those the fruits of labor coming from those people are not being acknowledged. It's so disconnected.
Yeah. So Kimmerer, as a scientist, botanist, she asks us to observe both our minds and our heart. What does her work teach you about the difference between cold, objective observation and like engaging in like a relationship with something?
I really like that question. I think that for me, science is very rooted in ecology and preservation, and especially with natural disasters happening all over, I think that science needs to be rooted in preservation. And I have a strong belief that until you care about something, you don't know what it will take to protect it, or like the lengths you're willing to go to protect it. And I think that that's a very important method to preservation. And so I think when Kimmerer is able to really connect scientific observation with the head and the heart, I think that that's a very human approach to learning more about nature and ecology.
It's almost like when she's talking about the moss,
Yeah.
and she's just describing it scientifically
Absolutely.
as well as using, that very specific language that makes it, known that there's a relationship there as well. How has the concept of the earth as a teacher, sharing wisdom through plants or animals, affected your sense of humility?
Ooh, I guess I think taking the earth as like a teacher has helped reshape the way that like I view my place on the earth, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like growing up, it was always this dichotomy of like humans versus earth, and no matter what, we are bad for the earth. And we need to keep ourselves separate, but learning more about like traditional ecological knowledge and like these different parts of how like science intersects with spirituality, like you were saying. I think I don't know, it's been helpful in showing me like, no, like I have a place in this, but at the end of the day, like I owe it all to the planet, right? And so as far as like humility goes, I think it shows me like I'm just one part of a larger system. And I don't know, I think it gives me a lot of gratitude. Um,
Did any specific principle of the harvest challenge your existing habits or assumptions the most?
Thing that I realized through the honorable harvest is that I have become so complacent in a world that is so disconnected. Especially humans disconnecting ourselves from the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
We are inherently not supposed to be disconnected. We're supposed to have this love and this connection. And so reading about the honorable harvest really brought me back to that, because I was able to learn that honoring where different entities have come from is really what grounds us in our own harvests and in our own like ways of living. I have had the opportunity to actually teach this book to a group of freshmen at the University of Utah, and I feel like I learned more and more through them because they have also gotten to tell me about how they have become more honorable through reading about this. So I'm just so blessed to have learned about the honorable harvest and to keep that in mind as I consume inevitably. So it's a beautiful work, and it really has changed the way that I think about it.
Can you give a practical example of how the honorable harvest applies to a modern choice you make?
I don't know, I think I kind of tie it back to like the gift economies, and just not kind of over consuming, especially with the holidays coming up. Thinking about like the way Christmas went for me growing up, and how it was just all about like getting the latest greatest like Wii, or like, you know, always it's just like buy. And it's a little bit less thinking about the person and taking the time to make that gift, and yeah, just giving more thought into what we consume and what we give.
Yeah.
And so I think like this Christmas for me, I want to try really hard to think about the people I'm giving gifts to, and like hand making things for them, and just being intentional about the things I gift and the things I consume, instead of just purchasing something because I think maybe someone would like it. Yeah.
A lot of the time in the past, like, I found myself just like buying things for people, but like not really like wondering like why, or like
Yeah.
what is the relationship, or what do I actually want the person to gain from this, than just another thing that will sit on the shelf for years to come.
Yeah.
So I really like that. Thank you.
Of course.
What is one small specific act of restoration or reciprocity that you now feel committed to doing in your community or your yard? You can also talk about CEL project and kind of what you're doing for that as well.
Okay. I think recently, as in like the past couple of years, there has been a lot of like where my position is with nature, how much I get to disrupt it, how much like I'm entitled to touch it, even like how much I should know, and like part of like wanting to be in the outside and like wanting to like go camping and go like have little meetings in nature and go frolic or whatever comes with like, okay, I need to do the work to feel like I can do this, to feel like it's okay for me to enjoy the nature, because the nature should know that I care for it back. Or should, it's not like they should know, it's like more like that I should know that I'm doing the work to feel like it's okay that I'm there, and keep destroying it, because like the ultimate goal is to like not even touch the fucking nature, not even go on that path that is already made for us, because people are gonna derail and like fuck up with more ecosystems that have always been there. So if I know where to set foot and like what is around me and how I'm supposed to like feed it, like if there's animals that I can feed or there's animals that I can't, or like what fishes are in this pond, and like which ones are these are invasive and what does invasive even mean to this area, where did they come from? I think a lot of that has been very prevalent for me. Same with like having little gardens around us, and a lot to do with how lawns are horrible, and I hate fucking grass. I hate grass.
They make everyone itchy. Why do we have them?
No, literally, they made like these little fucking swords like our grass that are so common. That's literally not even supposed to be it. I bet it blamed the Europeans, but whatever. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Lit.
Dr. Kimmerer explains that humans can be allies in restoration. How has this idea transformed any feelings of hopelessness you may have had about environmental issues?
I think that, humanity's role in improving comes a lot not only from what we have done and the consequences of our actions, but also from the motivations behind them. I think that there's something very strong about the groups of people, something very powerful about the groups of people that care so strongly about the world and the environment and nature itself that they will sacrifice their own health and safety and well-being in order to kind of like, it's the individual versus the collective. They will allow themselves to fall by the wayside in order to achieve what they see as like a higher purpose. And I think that in braiding sweetgrass, what we see is more of the individual perspective with reflection on the collective, because we're reading it from this very individual perspective. But like in burning sweetgrass, for example, that was the section that I had this semester, and being out amongst this like ravaged space with so much waste and so much damage that had been done, seeing the humanity and the hope that was sparked by the group coming by to, you know, help the turtles and to be gentle and provide, you know, a kind of counter to the assumptions that Kimmerer made initially, because in Kimmerer's mind there was this kind of default of there is a lack of care, there is a lack of trust that's being given. And so in my life, the climate has felt pretty bleak recently. You know, living in Utah, the Great Salt Lake is drying. The snow, we still haven't had any yet this year. It's so sad. I was just talking yesterday with my dad about, you know, the Olympics are coming, and I looking at it from like an infrastructure point of view, and like, oh, we're gonna have all those transportation projects that are gonna be done by then. But are we gonna have snow? Right? Are they gonna have to make it? So we seem to be trying to solve what we see as inevitable consequences by being like, well, you know, we can buy snow, we can make snow, and I think that's very.
It's operating from a market economy.
Absolutely. It's the height of hubris for humanity, in my opinion. And I think that what we need to do is think more in a restorative mindset of, well, my goodness, we are not attacking the root here. We're just like putting a Band-Aid on essentially a volcano and expecting it to stay below the surface. And much like in a forest, we might need a controlled burn of humanity's activities. We might need to cut back on some things. We might need to sacrifice the collective, not just the individual. We should not leave it up to a small group of dedicated individuals who are desperately trying to spread the message that this matters, this is important, and try to force, if necessary, humanity to take notice. And I think that we've been trying to do a better job of that recently, but because there's so much focus on the capitalist and the economy and the financial, that we're forgetting that, well, your money's all going to burn up along with you if you don't take care of the place where you live. And we've definitely taken a lot of resources for granted. So I think learning from Kimmerer in the sense of practicing the gift economy, practicing reciprocity, and just trying to make sure that the actions that we take are firstly not contributing, right? We don't necessarily have the power to eliminate, but we can certainly try to limit and at the same time work to accomplish collective, because either individual or collective, not enough. We need both together. They need to be married.
Right. If you've listened this far, you've made it to the end of my podcast. Kimmerer, I hope you're able to see the impact you've made in students' lives, hear their stories. I didn't expect the podcast to be this long, but after re-listening to all of the pre-recorded voice recordings, I just feel like everyone's opinion and application is valid and it's unique and it needs to be heard. And with that, I thank everyone who put their time into helping me create this project as well, all of my fellow students. And my last final thank you, again, to Kimmerer, Robin Wall Kimmerer, one of the greatest teachers I've come across.